post and
But I like you being here because you talk a lot.
Yeah.
Because not a lot, but like you're good at talking.
yeah, when something gets me on a thing, then I can kind of do it.
And we need to share your thoughts with the world. We post stuff,
And thank you. I am grateful for the opportunity because
and we can
that's
do
why
that.
I'm so obsessively on Twitter. I think is because I've got things that I don't want to hold in, and I think the only way out of that is to get it out another way.
To say it. Um,
My only coping mechanism from a Twitter addiction is to do things that feel even more important and more impactful that take my drive away from Twitter naturally.
and this is better than Twitter. No.
Well, it's a little bit easier to have an actual conversation, and you're not like sitting there waiting to see if somebody replies to your post. And
Or some commies coming in and saying some crazy shit.
yeah, and when they are as responsive as you're willing to be, then you just waste hours arguing in circles with a commie. And you're
Because
like,
it
what am I
is
doing with my
circles.
life?
There's a very strong like people who want to take
It always
other
goes full
people's
circle.
things cannot communicate with people who don't want to take other people's things. Like it's very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I mean, well, because it really is like the libertarian logic is probably why they hate libertarians. It's the libertarian logic like inverted. Like is because you say that I want yeah I want my rights to be respected, which I mean is a reasonable thing given that the rights we're referring to is the right to do make decisions pertaining to my own body and my own property, and I have the right to be left alone. Negative rights, they would say, but then they're like, well, no, because a right means the opposite of that. Right? Are you really free when you're hungry? Yes, as long as nobody's stopping you from being productive and coming up with a way to obtain food.
Right? That's
Yeah,
a,
but that's hard for some people. So it's the people who have stuff and aren't giving it out to people who don't have stuff freely that are causing their problems yet. So and then
just say you
you
want a
just
fucking slave. That's what they need to do.
well, but it's wild though. Yeah, I mean, and that really is the thing I don't think I will ever grasp is that eat the rich. Okay, so you're saying that yeah, these people are evil enough because they're rich and like to be fair, some of them do some pretty evil shit to help themselves get as rich as they are.
Yes.
Aside from simply selling products, um,
Did I
for a
say that?
profit. Yeah, nice. But 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 they will like unironically identify as parasites
Right.
that yeah we want to eat the rich, we want to leech off of the rich, but okay, but that means though that you want to get what you want and you're taking advantage of them being rich. So you don't hate them, you are actually glad that they exist so that you have somebody to be a parasite on. How does that make any sense? Let alone like setting aside just the problem of like, well, what happens once you have, if you've sucked all their blood out and then they're no longer a billionaire, then what do you do then?
Yeah. What's then? Then they become. It is all just envy and
Yeah,
like they would rather everybody be poor so that they don't have to feel bad because they don't have something they want.
I suppose so. I don't know if that's all of it though. I
Well,
think that
that's a
there is
simple.
the fact they don't fantasize about the idea of everybody being equally poor. It's easy for us to project that that is their thing, but I think they do really just believe in that Marxist idea that once the means of production are properly distributed, then things will just naturally work out in a more equitable fashion or something like that. And so, but they know that I think most of the people they're hoping to appeal to are not comfortable with their ultimate like ends that they're seeking. So they kind of have this way of dancing around it and then kind of coming at it as if that's not their goal, as if they have other goals. Like yeah, like
Right.
they're just happy to just flippantly say it's like yeah. eat the rich, tax the billionaires. That's not their end game, but it's I guess their plan isn't that they need a system where there's always billionaires for them to steal from. Maybe they plan on doing that until they're not billionaires anymore, and then the means of production will just naturally shift into the hands of everybody collectively. I mean, I'm trying to be too generous with their ability to actually think rationally, but
No, I mean it gets a lot of people. Okay, there's even college.
yeah, but I don't think they think through the process that they actually think is going, like how they're going to get from point A to point B.
Right. No, that's true, because then it's like you're like, okay, you want to initiate force and take everything from everybody. Or two people. I want to do shout outs. Can I do I'm doing a shout out really quick for two people.
We had 4 and then we had 2 and
There's one.
a
All right,
half
well, let me put
element
this in
one.
there.
Yeah, they come and go. They come and go.
Just like us. We come in and go. This is from Neophyte Gear. It says, I just wanted to be left alone. He sells hot sauce too.
He says hot sauce. Andy wants to be left alone.
69%.
Nice. Nice. 69.
And one more shout out. These people are gonna try, but if you can make a donation to FPC,
Oh, cool.
I bought a towel and some other stuff. Fuck, he says, fuck you, no.
I like that. That's even better in some ways.
Support them if you can. They're better than the NRA.
That's a towel.
Yeah. I got a tank top.
It's a
too.
nice fabric too.
I got a tank top, and then they said, I asked them if they could start making extra small ones, and they said they will. I like these I like fitted tank tops, not the racerback tank tops. I already gave them a shout out with this, but it says save the dogs, abolish the ATF.
Nice. Oh, I like that. A lot of the libertarian merch stuff that I see is like so close to something that I could see myself wearing, but then not quite. That's like perfect.
Yeah, I don't know, I like tank tops, but
Yeah.
anyways, I want to talk about happy things. Something that's happy that I'm looking forward to is Robbie the Fire Bernstein coming to Denver on Sunday, December 12th. I think there's still some tickets. That'll be fun, and it'll be a fun group because like all the Mises Caucus people that I've been meeting said they're going.
Yeah,
and you'll
and,
love all that. Like what you don't know, like
and all of you people from across the country and world and Twitter, you're all coming to Colorado.
yeah, everyone's
to see
coming
Robbie the
to see
Fire.
Robbie. It'll be fun. Should be a great time. A good time just to party. It's a Sunday night, but whatever. We have flexible schedules. So
I'm stoked that it's likely I'm going to actually meet him.
yeah, I'm sure we will. They were only selling like 100 tickets total.
Yeah.
So it's not where the venue isn't huge. So no, that'll be fun. It's been so hard to look forward to anything because can't go to concerts, and now I don't know if you saw the latest thing, 6 counties like Denver, Arapahoe, Jefferson, Larimer, the ones right around kind of Metro, not Douglas though. But anything over 500 people has to be it's vaccine only, and that not
even the testing option.
the test option ends like December 9th.
Not that I give a fuck about
I
the
know.
test. I'm not putting up with that either, but
Me either.
yeah, I was gonna go see Lotus at the Fillmore on Halloween, and I had my ticket like a long time early because I think I bought it really good price on a pre-sale, but then like at the end of September, I got an email saying it's like Live Nation has just made it so that you have to have the shot or get a test to go to the show, and I was like, well then fuck you, give me my money back.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think they probably would have had a hard time fighting that because it's like you can't sell me a ticket under one premise, like and then change the rules
Yeah.
unless you're willing to at least give me my money back. But it still shouldn't have been.
We're getting punished for being more. We're still the humans we were before March 2020.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever, recreational drugs and shit aside, but like overall, like I haven't put any, and we're getting punished. It's so like.
I think it might be worth it to actually try to rile people up and organize like a boycott. Like try to get as many even vaccinated people together and just indoctrinate them on the cause
and get them to see this as like, this is something you can take a sacrifice and make a difference. And even though you are eligible to go to all of these bars and concerts, I don't know, I feel kind of shitty even thinking about doing that, because like, from my perspective is like, I'm telling you not to live your life and do your things, even though like you took the sacrifice, I guess, of complying. And then and you know, so I feel bad asking somebody, but I don't.
They're out there.
That's not enough. I think that would, if I was a vaccinated individual, I would feel like that is the right thing to do. And I do want to motivate people, whether they've had the shot or not, to boycott. And what happened to boycotts?
What?
Boycott the fucking shit until they lose so much money in trying to put on shows that nobody comes to, because but I don't know,
The sad part right now is that
nobody cares.
there's too many people who want to feel above others, so they're doing the thing and they're going to the but there are the people out there who are vaccinated who know it's wrong to exclude people.
Yeah, but they are of the mentality that I can kind of understand, which is like, this is going to be an awesome show and I can go, so how could I not go?
My good friend she kind of got a little bit red pilled this summer. She listened to 1984 and Animal Farm and stuff, but she was like, a couple months ago, maybe like 3 months ago, she was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it because she's trying to get a job, first of all, so she may end up having to get it anyways. But she was like, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna get it because now I've had this brain injury and been home for all these months, and then as soon as I'm gonna be able to go out, I won't be allowed into all the places because of the vaccine thing. But then like a month and a half later, her sisters who are medical professionals, some of them, like kind of talked her out of it a little bit, and she was like, no, yeah, it does seem a little weird.
Brain problems, last thing you want is something that's going to cause you like autoimmune and cognitive
she already
issues.
has issues. She's already on other prescriptions and stuff too, and we do plenty of drugs together. So like, but it's interesting, like I still do not understand how like the yogi community and all of them like bought into all of this.
Yeah, I almost kind of just for that reason alone wish that I wasn't so distant from some of those people, like the Burning Man people I used to hang out with, some of the like kink scene people and like the people at the yoga and stuff. But I do have one friend though that we knew each other from work, but we were both like pretty into a lot of the same like spiritual stuff back then, and I talked her into going and doing her yoga teacher training at the same place I did my yoga teacher training, and we were always pretty close, as close as like naturally platonic boy girl friendships can even be, and it but I hadn't seen her for a while, but when she was in Lakewood, we got together for a hike a number of weeks ago, and she was telling me a little bit about how somebody who had been her fiance, they had been living together in this house, that they were breaking up, but she brought up that one of the things that his complaint was with her was that she was supposedly anti-vax. And then at a different point in the conversation, she said that she even got her like Pfizer shot, and it sounded like, I don't know if she said it quite right out, but it sounded like it was partly motivated by a desire to not lose that relationship. That would be like a way of proving him wrong about like this, like whatever problem he had with her stance on vaccines, which I'm not that familiar with anyway. We haven't talked about it much, but that did come up with her in texts at another point in time, and it was because I was joking. She was going to have a Halloween party, and I was like, that's cool. I'd be happy to come as long as you don't mind my unclean status, or something like that. She was like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm saying that, and I know you aren't going to, but as long as you don't require me to get injected with stuff to go to your party, I'll be there. And then we kind of actually got into it a little bit on that, and I realized pretty quick she didn't want to argue about any of this anyway, and I didn't really want to antagonize her, but she did get them. One of the interesting things she said was that part of why she did get it is because it's unlike most vaccines. which makes it sound like maybe she does kind of have some reservations when it comes to vaccines in general. Usually people are saying the opposite. They're like, I am not anti-vax. I'm not anti-vax. I believe in the merit of vaccines. Now that that's said, this one kind of concerns me. It's like, but that was kind of flipped around. It's like she's maybe kind of got some skepticism about vaccines, but this one was different than most. So don't want to pick on her too much, but that seems kind of like maybe you didn't completely do enough research to think that was relevant.
Well, or maybe in her, see, when people are treating this one so different, then I'm like, oh, so you are admitting it was stuck within a lab and made differently from other viruses. That's what I want to say to him, but like, no one's really talking about that or admitting it anyways at this point. They're just kind of like, yeah, I think, I don't know.
When people are afraid of being seen as insane, and it's probably because everybody's got some insane theories in their head that they can't prove, because what other choice do we have when we're trying to make sense of stuff that doesn't make any sense?
Well, I know they're just, I'm fine with like a weird reality and shit. That's what makes me so mad. But these people, like, I don't know where I was going with that.
You're fine with a weird reality? Like what kind of weird reality?
Well, like I feel like my life thus far, prior to COVID 2020, I wasn't like totally a huge part of the like mainstream society, and I was able like
I've
to
always
kind of
been pretty fringe in my
yeah,
way
you
counterculture.
what you like to do, you kind of figure out how to do what you like to do within the framework that's there, you know. But now it's like you can't even get out of it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you can't, and it's like regulatory capture in like in a social sense and stuff like that. Like you just, but I don't know. I guess maybe one sort of in the spirit of optimism would be that I do know from my experience interacting, picking people up, doing the ride share stuff, that only because of doing that do I realize that in real life there are more than you might imagine people who don't who aren't really into all this kind of stuff, and some of them are just incredibly grateful as soon as they realize that I do not insist that they wear a mask around me by any means whatsoever. They're like, oh,
as long as you know they're not a spy and will report you, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then that's even the thing too about like people getting into the car not wearing a mask, making me think, okay, we don't need to talk about it. I'm good too. Right. And then I'll look back, checking my blind spot. Oh, you're wearing a mask now. I guess I'll put mine on too, so you don't report me if you were thinking about doing that. It's a super awkward thing.
This is such a dumb, like.
But this one guy that wasn't about it, and eventually we got there. He actually did get in my car wearing a mask, but he then later explained that the reason he started doing that was because he got reported for asking a driver, like, if he could take it off. Yeah, like he said, like, hey, I don't really want to wear a mask or something like that. Is that cool? And the driver was like, no, that's not cool. And I'm not going to pick you up. I'm going to cancel it. And then they not only canceled it, but they also reported him. And he's like, I didn't even ride in the guy's car who was making a big deal out of it. How am I in trouble? Like,
it's so dumb. All right, I have to go to the bathroom, of course. We're going to carry the conversation. When I come back, you'll tell me about the milk passengers.
Oh, yeah. I'm having a good time. No, just kidding. That was a Wayne's World reference, by the way, if you didn't miss that. Well, yeah, so I don't know. I like to be solutions oriented, so I'm just wondering, like, what do people think about actually trying to kind of appeal to even some of your more normie people that can at least get on? Yes, party on, Wayne. Appealing to people who you know are maybe more on the normie side of things, but are still pretty unhappy with the ridiculousness that's like, you know, they got their shot, but yet their lives aren't back. So what's going on? Trying to talk them into boycotting some of these events just kind of I don't know. I guess communication is always good.
Oh, Colin's back. Okay, so tell me about the milk people.
Oh yeah. So going back to, I just remember I asked her to remind me about this one interaction that I had with some passengers, because it really did stick in my brain because it was strange. Um, there were like three of them, so I don't think I even really had much to contribute to the conversation. But they're talking amongst themselves. I was taking them to this place called Milk Bar in off of Broadway near downtown Denver.
It's a goth and 80s bar.
Yeah, it's kind of a neat place. I've enjoyed myself there. Sometimes they do like heavy, angry industrial music and it's, like that, like to rage. But I apparently can't do that though because they like require vaccines, and they were talking about that. Oh yeah, because it came up when they're in the car and we're on the way, and one of them is like, "Oh no, I don't have my vaccine card," and they're like, "Oh, don't worry about it." So they like called their roommate that was still at the home, and I guess they were able to just have him go into her dresser and take a picture of her vaccine card and text it to her so that she could get in, and yay. And of course they weren't complaining at all about the fact that they have to deal with
Do
this
that.
crap anyway. They're actually like noticeably happy that this is the policy. To your point about like, seems like they're very glad to be better than and to exclude the lesser thans, but can't speak for everybody. But yeah, there's something to that. Well, so but not only are they, talking about this just so like matter of fact, it's like, yeah, well, cool. And they're talking about like, and there's this app too, by the way, that you can use just in case you forget your ID as well. You can put all this stuff in the app and you can have your vaccine card, and it's great. It's going to change your life. Just download it right now on your phone. You can have your thing on your phone, so you don't got to worry about it. You can have access to all of the things. And it's like, yeah, okay.
It's so dystopian.
But then they're also talking about like, and by the way, our friend, did you know, like Billy or whoever, he has the COVID. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah, I think they caught it at Milk. And then one of them actually, I remember it said it exactly this way. Wait, there was like they have COVID at Milk. I guess I'm not positive that was perfectly exact, but it was something exactly almost like that. Like, okay, so nobody brought up that it's like, okay, you're all clearly vaccinated, and your friend who you said is definitely fully vaccinated is now sick at home with COVID, and you think it's because they went to the bar that you're going to, and then I suppose, are you saying that you might be now suddenly concerned that this bar you're going to, where they only let vaccinated people in there, might have like an aura of COVID, like just like a cloud of COVID in there, like that's like the source or something, like as if it wouldn't obviously make sense to just say like, oh yeah, somebody there might have had it and spread it to you. Like Milk Bar had like, it didn't make any sense the way she said it. But yeah, and I didn't weigh in at all, but it just was just so strange that they didn't change their tone at all, their tune at all.
As they were saying these
yeah,
biological
that
things.
they're talking about how pro-vaccine and how pro getting fully vaccinated. I think even a couple of them says like, I can't wait to get my booster and stuff like that. Like, if you want to make a parody out of these people, you couldn't have done a better job. But yeah, they're enthusiastic. They can't wait to get as many of these shots as they'll allow them to get, and then they're also getting sick and not really concerned and not really thinking about that. Like, well, but yeah, you still can get sick and from people who are vaccinated apparently, but you still think it's okay that the bar you want to go to and have a good time at isn't going to let anybody in who hasn't had this vaccine that apparently is not protecting you.
That doesn't even do anything. It makes no goddamn sense. I don't get it. They're like technically the
There's nothing to
asymptomatic
get.
carriers now. Yeah, there's nothing to get, but like now they're like, oh no, it just lessens everything, and then it's like, so you're like where you're not sick and you're gonna go out and do things and you're like, and the fact we're testing still, like, anyways, I wanted to show you the picture of the. There he is. Look at
Oh, she's showing me a picture of the
the
prosecuting
prosecutor
attorney.
with the gun. Just
Wait, let me take a closer look because that's just silly right there. Obviously, this is getting memed. He's got his finger wrapped around the trigger. Of course. Oh, but it wasn't loaded. Wouldn't it be almost like hilarious if he actually did accidentally shoot that? Like it actually did have a round in the chamber and nobody told him. Actually, somebody should do that as a prank, as a goof. They know he's using it as a prop,
not
and he
shooting it to anyone?
doesn't have trigger discipline because he's a stupid ass elitist progressive that has never probably ever
tower.
held a gun in his life.
Ivory Tower piece of crap.
He's
Ivory
just-
Tower people who they don't want us to defend ourselves because they want the cops to come at us.
yeah, that one is gonna be a funny one to watch, I'm sure.
It'll be memed a lot. I don't know what the fuck.
I wonder what the context is. Like, I guess he's trying to demonstrate. He's trying to paint a picture of like, look, I'm holding this gun right here, and I just can't even imagine what he could be trying to do with that. It's gonna be slimy, obviously, but
super slimy. That's all it is, though.
yeah, just go behind him and yell bang. Yeah. Like he's just standing there with his finger on the trigger, and somebody should totally just sneak up behind him and be like, bang! Watch him flinch. It's like, oh no, what have I done? He'll probably turn the barrel around and look inside to see if there's a bullet in there he didn't know about.
And these are the experts and people in charge of everything. That's the scary part. Like, I think I told you about my friend who was working she was a city and county attorney, and then she became a judge. And in between that time, in June of last year, well, I broke up with her. I sound like I'm so terrible. I'm not purposely excluding people, but there's a lot of people I broke up with last year, basically.
I don't think people should be ashamed. I think it's stupid to be militant about, like, if my friends don't have the right politics, I'm disowning them. But I don't think that it follows that disagreements over those should by no means ever separate people, because it does separate people, understandably.
Yeah, so in that time, I always knew she's a little aloofy, but obviously smart. She's a lawyer. I mean, she's smart, obviously. But she got, the scam when you put something on Craigslist and then someone says, well, I'll send you a check for this much money if you can cash it for me, which is the oldest fucking scam in the book.
But people who haven't heard of it before fall for it.
And
at least it's a numbers game for the people who do it. Somebody will fall for it.
Attorney
she fell
for it.
Oh.
Even to the point where she put the check into the bank and then was mad because there was a fee for the fake check and she didn't want to pay that fee. And I think she got him to drop it anyways. But I'm like, okay, and this is a person who's in charge. She's now a judge. No judgment about being dumb, because I'm dumb too. But that's being scammed when you're her whole job is discernment and judgment. And that's one of the simple things to discern.
She's a lawyer or a judge?
Now she's a judge, but she was a lawyer.
Okay, I was gonna say no. Maybe her job isn't discernment when she's a lawyer, but it is if she's a judge.
Yeah, now it is. And she last year during the whole COVID thing, she helped them write in rules about how the city could take hotel rooms no matter what. If it's an emergency, that they could take hotel rooms and just giving away private property. Although, on that little aside, the hotel lobby in Denver is who lobbied Denver to make it so you needed the license and rules around Airbnb.
Really? I didn't know about this at all.
Oh yeah, so you have to live in the house, and you have to pay for a license through the city. So you
have to get a license from the city to do an Airbnb now.
Yeah, and now long-term rentals too. They're gonna in Denver, the city of Denver. They're gonna make people, which is
Are they gonna require people to get vaccinated too to stay in their home?
It could go down that route. I mean, what? Yeah, is landlords gonna be okay Is it okay if landlords pick out unvaccinated people? Or are they evil landlords? Or are they?
I'm guessing they won't take it to. That may be one of the lines they will not cross, because even their fascist Noam Chomsky doesn't seem to be suggesting that
that you should force unvaccinated people to just live down by the river, but more he
Completely
seems to be
separate.
suggesting that you're not allowed to leave your home. So he would maybe want the taxpayer to still have to pay for people to, be locked in their homes. But I don't know. It's hard for me to imagine any of these people, including Noam Chomsky, even really think it through. He's just really just kind of like, well, there's nowhere else I can go with this logic
He did say
other than it's like, yeah, well, obviously we want freedom, but if you don't do the thing that I've decided means that you're a mass murderer if you don't get this injection, then we obviously can't let you participate in society.
that's what he said.
But
he
if you
wanted to
can't
separate
participate
people,
in
right?
society, well, are other people going to be your slaves so that you can continue to eat and have a place to stay? Oh, I guess we can't allow you to live or be alive, is because that's the logical conclusion. That's what I wish people would do, is take stuff to the logical conclusion. Like, yeah, if you want to go this far, if you really want to control what other people do medically, then if they don't want to comply, then eventually you're just going to have to put them out of their.
Oh, here's another. I was looking for that quote he said, but here's one that's great from Mr. He used to be all about like free speech, right? The smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow lively debate within that spectrum. Like, what the fuck?
Noam Chomsky said that the smart way to keep people passive and obedient is to strictly limit the spectrum of acceptable opinion, but allow very lively debate within that spectrum. Wait, are you sure that is not like a quote from Manufactured Consent or something? I don't know if, I think that might be taken out of context. If I understand Noam Chomsky well enough, in the past, he probably would have been saying something like that in criticism of that sort of
Like he was being
situation.
ironic?
Well, no, he's like describing how a propaganda apparatus works. Like not from a
Okay.
point of view of being in favor of it, but just that he understands that this is how you control people, how you control thought. Because he used to be considered somebody who would be like anti-Orwellian dystopia kind of person.
He said allow every opinion.
Yeah, and I think he even did, to some people's chagrin, I think, defend Alex Jones. Like, I think he went ahead and paid a little bit of lip service to, like, yeah, I know that he's a terrible person and he and understandable complaints about the things that he says, but we cannot, we cannot abandon the importance of free speech. I think he was at least on that. But I'm guessing now he would still support the idea of censoring misinformation.
Doesn't really have to find out where it came
Because, yeah,
from.
you could potentially kill somebody by telling them that perhaps these shots aren't what they're purported to be, and for
Which
telling
they
them that
aren't.
they could. But you are hurting people's faith in the jab, and if there's any chance that it could save even one life, if you say anything negative about it at all, even if it's perfectly factual, that could contribute to vaccine hesitancy, and then somebody is going to probably die as a result.
Oh, that's right. That's
of
why they're
being
mad
hesitant.
at Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Someone might listen to him.
Yeah. I think that's probably really what it is. That's how they rationalize it when they are otherwise rational people, is that they're like, well, yeah, I mean, I know that they are technically only censoring something that is technically true, but we shouldn't let people say that because that fact is dangerous and it puts people in harm's way. I think it's that crowded theater argument thing. I think is that idea that it's like, well, obviously, like, it's not a crime to lie to somebody about there being a fire, but in that context, then it could cause people to die. I believe that context, I hate how people always bring that up. That was also from like a time when like they were using film reels that are highly flammable. So if there
Cool.
was it, so there was a very real risk of there if there was a fire at a theater.
The same
That
thing happened
that
at
whole shit is
Astroworld.
going to
People get trampled still, even not even in fucking theaters with someone yelling fire. You know what I mean?
yeah
Like,
yeah. I mean,
no
and
one
it-
says you can't have a concert with because it might
Yeah.
hurt somebody.
I guess it could be reasonable if you could be proven to have knowingly caused people to panic and stampede in a crowded area and people get hurt, that at least like that you could have to be required to make whole the people who got trampled, because it can be proven beyond reasonable doubt that you knowingly started this chaos. But
Right. Stick to
could still be
food
kind
fights.
of that could still be kind of dicey, I bet.
So do you believe that there was like some trance going on? Did that come up in the thing you watched?
Yeah, so I guess we're talking about Travis.
Sorry, we're going to
We're
Astro
talking
World.
about Astro World and Travis Scott now. And yeah, wow, where to even begin? I don't even know, because like most of what I can even do with that is speculate kind of weird sort of supernatural kind of theories and stuff, and that can go pretty wild. But I wish I had any idea exactly what I thought about what happened to these people. There was some report, right, that somebody seemed, I think it was a cop that ended up passing out or something like
The
that,
one
and
who
then
had
they reported
supposedly-
that they thought they got stabbed in the neck with something, and
last
they
thing I
did
read
have
said they-
evidence that they had been injected with something.
The
But
last thing I read said, yeah, like it looked like he had a pinprick in him. But
Yeah.
the last thing I read said they still weren't able to, which they're not reporting much on it.
right, and that's kind of the thing that makes me think,
Something's
well, this
up.
may be one of multiple things that they're trying to use the Rittenhouse case to distract people from. I think that is part of it. I think this Astro World thing it helps to have the Kyle Rittenhouse thing going on right now, because it does kind of take some people's eyes off of that matter, so that eventually it'll just kind of get buried in history in the 24-hour news cycle, and people will stop talking about it. Because I don't think it's clearly they don't want people to think about this or talk about this, which
Yeah.
means that probably gonna have to continue hashing away at it. But yeah, I think I'm skeptical that there's any merit to that, like people getting jabbed in the neck with stuff
Yeah, I
in the
don't
crowd
believe- I
kind
don't
of
know
thing.
about
Because I
that.
think, well, and if there was the case, I wouldn't trust investigators to disclose the information unless they could spin it as like it's some white supremacist that was trying to inject people, and then they could try to say that all these, but then they'd have to actually lie, or it would have to be true that all of these people who died all had like in their autopsies they all had this puncture in their necks. That's the only way you could conclude that it wasn't something else.
Right.
So the guy I was listening to, I think he also didn't go too far and claim to know anything that he really doesn't know, but suggesting that there is something to the trance of the beat and just all of the imagery, and that this really is, if you look at it like if you just kind of look at the whole situation, this was a demonic ritual. Like this all of it, there were so many aspects of it. There's like this thing that says like, see you on the other side. The guy's wearing a shirt that shows like these like blue people walking into a door and then walking out the other side of the door, and they're demons all of a sudden. They're like red devil things with horns, and the stage is an inverted cross, and there's like this like hidden hand thing, creepy hand thing up above
doing
it.
that.
And then there's all this other stuff with like Kylie Jenner doing these photo shoots where she's like covered in like blood and doing this like Nightmare on Elm Street sort of
Like recently?
makeup line. Yeah, this was a very recent thing, so that's kind of why it seems to be related, that there's some kind of creepy stuff going on with his 24-year-old billionaire wife. And
Is that Travis Scott and her?
Travis Scott is married to Kylie Jenner.
I had never even heard of him before the whole thing went
Yeah,
down.
neither had I. And I also didn't really know that
fuck us
that
for knowing
Kylie
who
Jenner
Kylie
was a
Jenner is.
billionaire, and that she has like one of the most successful makeup lines in the world. She did like a Nightmare on Elm Street thing around Halloween, but I guess
Because
that's a
her
little
mom
bit
pimped
less
her sister
relevant.
out.
I guess. I
That's
I
what
still
makes me
don't know
think
if
the
I
whole, like-
understand how those people got famous.
I
Like,
think it was part of selling their soul to the devil, and I think they probably
Yeah.
sacrificed the kids to some like.
yeah, I can't rule it out at this point.
No.
Like I used to think in the past I would have dismissed stuff like that as like pure
Now they're all
superstition from
pedophile.
religious nut jobs. But I mean, I kind of didn't even come to Christ until events in the world started really proving to me there really is a devil. Like, so that's why at this point, yeah, something like that probably. I mean, and the guy I'm talking about, he did go into multiple musicians and celebrities and all this kind of stuff that usually had high connections to um, intelligence agencies in the world, and would have actual public statements where they are saying basically that they are in that they have made a deal with the devil. Like it's not you don't even have to just say I bet they made a deal with the devil. You can like look at this individual and say it's like, yeah, that's my muse. I sold my soul to the devil, and and that's how I'm able to keep this inspired like hip hop artists. This, and all of a sudden I didn't have to write anything down anymore. Yeah, so it does look like if there's any reality to that being a thing at all, that's definitely what's going on with Travis Scott. Like if a person can physically be or spiritually be like possessed or oppressed by a demon, like a legit demon spirit entity, that is definitely what was going on with Travis Scott. I think that's safe to say.
It seems like it. I don't even know if
That
I
or he's
believe
just
all
a
that.
shitty person that doesn't care about other people because he's up there on stage like saying like while everybody's chanting stop the show, and people are up there telling him like there's a lot of really bad stuff going on down there, you should probably stop the show, and he's just all like yeah, leave me the fuck alone. And then he's like, he just gets back up there and is all like, all right, I want you guys, everybody, hands to the air. Like, while this is all happening, people are on the floor, like freaking out. People are saying they can't breathe. Some people are dying and passing out, getting trampled. And he's like, everybody, 2 hands to the air. And he's like, and then let's make the ground fucking shake. And then he drops the beat and he's like, come on, let's keep on raging. Yeah. And he at no point did he stop the show early. He played his whole set.
They showed people talking to like the cameraman. The cameraman did nothing, and like he has a walkie-talkie. You can tell some, even if he can't stop in the moment, he can be like, "Hey, I think something's going on."
Yeah.
Can
Well, he's
it?
up there. He's got a better view of the situation than anybody in the crowd.
And none of them,
he can see that people are in trouble.
Right, especially if they're. And so, was it a whole trample situation and a push situation?
Well, I'm sure that was an aspect of it. Like, well, so I think that something that one can speculate over is all of these multiple reports from even people who ended up being fine, who didn't, who made it out okay, and then went on to like TikTok or something, and were talking about this, talking about their experience from being in the crowd. They're just horrified, like people being like, that was some seriously demonic shit. Like, what the fuck? And they're just trying to like cope with what they saw. And they're also saying it's like, and it was so weird. Like, I had no idea what was going on, but I just like couldn't breathe. Everybody was like with their heads up, like gasping for air. Like we couldn't breathe. And this one person said that they had that notion is like, I gotta fight as hard as I can to stay up because I know that if I go down, I'm not getting back up. Like, so yeah, some people were getting trampled, but some people were having some kind of crazy shit going on. I guess what I've been kind of trying to like avoid just saying right out, the idea is that I'm not saying this as if I think this is what happened, but I suspect maybe it's one of the better explanations I can come up with, is that maybe it does have something to do with having gotten the jab that has some kind of physiological like effect on the body that we just don't know about. Maybe someone does, maybe nobody does.
But then there's that maybe prerequisite. I don't know. That's when I start feeling like I'm making an ass out of myself, assuming it has
No.
anything to do with that. But if everybody there is, then that would give some
And it
merit
would
to this.
kind of make sense.
So they've got
like,
this thing going on in their body, and then you've got this satanic, demonic ritual intentionally set up to be that way. And then you've got these trance kind of these beats that are supposed to keep you in a trance, and people are supposed to be in this kind of dark and kind of weird state of mind. Everybody who talked about it said it felt really dark and really eerie. And then who knows what kind of music, what kind of like what this will do to your heart rate. Maybe it brings your heart rate to a specific frequency. I don't know. I've heard a lot of new age people talk about that kind of stuff, that if you find a certain frequency, you can like they're trying to speculate that like the story in the Bible about like Jericho and then like sounding trumpets and walking around it had something to do with sound vibration, having the ability to do that if you can tap into the right frequency. There's probably something to that. And I mean, and we know that we do know with binaural beats and other things that there are ways to manipulate people's heart rates and their brain waves and things like that with music. I mean, if music can make you feel blissful and happy and good, which it obviously can, music can also probably, if you know what you're doing, have a different kind of effect on you. Why you would make music why you would design music for the purpose of causing a certain percentage of vaccinated people to die seems kind of far-fetched, but maybe it wasn't any human person that was consciously working this out. Maybe there were like demonic spirits using these people as proxies, and they didn't even know what they were doing. I don't know. I hate that I have to talk about this because I feel crazy.
even just on like a not we all get on. Yeah, the streams would be fun. The like just the idea of when you're at a concert, you've been at concerts before where you get pushed, where it gets crowded, right? Or you get pushed into certain areas.
Yeah.
And like maybe now just with just simply just from the law of averages, not even like a conspiracy, that more people with the jabs are going to be, their heart might be a little more weak or whatever now to those kinds of situations. So
Yeah,
more
they're a
people
little more vulnerable to stress.
Yeah.
That could, yeah,
It could be
that's
just
probably
simple,
the better,
too,
that's
like-
probably the less far-fetched way to try to come up with a plausible
I was
theory.
thinking we
That
should
they may
try
have
and-
some kind of physiological thing, where it's subtle and it's not normally but I mean, for all we know, like the way that they seem to be always trying to push this panic attacks problem and prescribe like Xanax for people who have anxiety to get them hooked on that for their whole lives and stuff like that. I mean, for all we know, there's something about this that is supposed to make people prone to anxiety. But I mean, but at the same time, the fact that they took the shot in the first place and fell for all of this might have been because they were already in a state of high anxiety.
Right.
So then that's when you would have to distinguish between, it's like, what is the causal relationship here? Are they anxious because they got the shot, or did they get the shot because they're anxious? Maybe a little of both, but I don't know. I think it's probably not too safe to go too far on, because I don't have any basis for saying that this shot does anything
Yeah, this
other-
is all just opinion and
other than that. Well, it doesn't do what they say it does, but it does, as far as I know, almost do what they sometimes say it does. I'm still skeptical, but whatever. It does something, I'm sure.
just the fact that we need 3 already. Like, I was gonna say we should try and ohm and make a vibration. Or do if you can do ohm. Just,
You mean now?
yeah.
I guess.
I guess it's harder with 2 people. In a whole room of people, it's
Yeah.
easy to find that like where you feel it in your belly,
Yeah. I've done ones that were really cool where everybody tapped into like the same frequency and stuff, and I've also done them where it never works out. I think it's usually because whoever the leader, the yoga teacher is in that class or something, that they don't realize that when they start ohming from like a comfortable place in their voice range,
that the other gender people in the room might have to try to do a different octave to get to that frequency. So everybody is just on a random note and it clashes and it
Yeah.
sounds really
It
bad.
doesn't hit that.
Doesn't
Like,
always work.
it doesn't. Because everybody's on their own different like things.
Hmm.
Meditative. It does. Well, anytime it makes you just focus on like either your breath or like just that's a good meditation to just like focus on that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm still reevaluating stuff like that myself, but I have experienced benefits of stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
It is
'cause
good to vocalize.
You said you don't want to do yoga as much anymore. Or?
Well, yeah, I don't know that that's really a thing that I can even,
Think
I don't
about.
know, like, because it's hard for me to separate because I'm decidedly, I used to kind of, it was nice being in this state in some ways because it gave me less to think about, but I used to kind of just think of spirituality and stuff like that as like it's all the same and you can kind of like mix and match and it doesn't matter because it's just,
You are just
we're
Christian.
all one and
You are just Christian.
yeah, by no means. And I might have thought that Christian was one of the things that I was, but then when you actually read the book that's supposed to tell you what Christianity is, it doesn't really suggest that you can be all of the things.
No.
But that's kind of the kicker there is that yoga is a Hindu practice, and it's just kind of, I can't really make that work why a Christian should be practicing Hinduism.
Even just the physical part, like if you just the stretching and stuff, or can you not separate it?
Yeah, that's kind of that's perhaps debatable. And I guess the thing is that most of the asanas are they are named after Hindu deities and stuff
Right.
like that. But I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other whether that matters or. No. I feel like it's cool to stretch, and if you like stretching and yoga poses, then that's fine. I just haven't personally been interested in doing that stuff anymore.
There's one pose that's about this king who had to step from one continent to another. That's like
Yeah.
what the stretch is based off of, or a deity, I guess.
And it's also like if you could separate it, that's one thing. But for me specifically, like probably at least like 7 years, if not more, of my life, like I did this stuff ritualistically, like as a like
Religion.
yeah, as like my devotional like practice for God. And so it's kind of hard for me to even imagine trying to separate that and just think of it in the secular terms now. But
That's like for me when I did my yoga more ritualistically, but it was more for to get me at my best.
yeah,
And that was how. But
and that's kind of like because you've been to Core Power and stuff. Yeah, I think Core Power even kind of brands itself in that more of that way because there are some people who are like more oriented toward. I don't want to go to one of these yoga studios that that focuses just on like externalities and body fitness and stuff like that. I want to experience spirituality.
right.
And that's where you go. That's why you go to places like the Samadhi Center. But if you are the kind of person that just wants a yoga butt, you should probably go to Core Power.
It's just that stuff is, and just the hot heated room, and like I would go to talk about my immunity. I mean, I'd be walking in other people's sweat, and you're all breathing in the same
Like, especially
humidified
those
air.
Bikram. Well, you don't. Did you do Bikram or just the?
They had a Bikram style class called hot yoga where they didn't do all the Bikram, but they did like a handful of them. But my favorite class is called it was Core Power 2. It was like level 2, and it was basically a vinyasa flow in the heat.
Yeah, and I've done the Bikram at a different studio in Omaha before, and that was crazy. Like I was definitely in a pool of sweat by the end of it. I've also done the like hot vinyasa thing at this place called the River, which I liked that place actually.
I've heard of that place. Downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a long time ago, and it was a really clean facility, and it was different from what I was used to. But I enjoyed it, and I sweat a lot.
Yeah, there's something good about, like, I know people are like, no, you don't sweat out toxins. Like, I don't care. I feel better when I sweat.
Yeah,
all
and you
that.
kind of do, but it's true. It shouldn't be overstated.
Right.
Like, your best bet is to not take in toxins in the first place, but at the same time, is that like whatever you think you need to detox, like you're not gonna get that. It's not just gonna all be out of your body because you sweated, but there's
Right.
something to it.
I just felt healthier when I would, even if it wasn't even yoga. Before I would go to yoga, I would always look for saunas to be able to do saunas and then a cold shower. And like, then
Which
I found
that
yoga.
just feels good too. And the
Yeah.
cold shower is definitely based scientifically that it causes your body doesn't want to like go into frostbite or like so what happens when your surface of your skin is exposed to really cold temperatures is that blood kind of rushes to the surface of your skin to try to kind of keep everything alive
Warm.
and
Oh.
and so you get that kind of benefit of it kind of opening up some of the kind of finer capillaries in your skin and sort of doing that like kind of get it open a little bit. But the other thing is that it can also cause some of your mitochondria to die, which is good because it's only going to kill the weak mitochondria that are
We're
taking
Darwin-
up space.
We're Darwin
that-
awarding.
yeah, it's kind of like that. They're like taking up space from like new mitochondria that could grow and take their place. So if you kill off the weak ones, then you end up with stronger ones.
Maybe that's why I'm so strong now. Because I did that and even after hot yoga, I would, because you have to rinse off anyways, but I would
That's
do
cool.
a cold shower, and just felt so good. I felt so high just from doing those classes. No, I mean, stillbirth.
Yeah.
And like, I just, at the end of class, it's like, and there are moments during the class where you're just like, fuck, I want to go down, but like, if you push yourself through it.
Yeah, that's one of the things I miss about yoga was those experiences of like I'm toughing this out and I'm gonna make it through this, and then that kind of triumph of like I wanted to quit so many times. I was so tired and I was shaking and all that stuff, and I was sweating and I was not happy. But now I just spent like 10 minutes lying on my back after it was all over, and I just feel blissful and full of peace.
And we
So
would
there's
put cold
something to
towels
that.
on our face up there.
Yeah, and one of my favorite teachers is her name is Beth, and she had this thing. She must have gotten some training in um, like
Massage or
something like that, but it's more like pinpoint, like some like what's it called, neuro like
muscle activation.
no, that's not too important, but craniosacral. Yeah, craniosacral kind of like therapies. I guess that would be involved in some massage therapy, but when everyone was like in their wow, it's been so long, shavasana, that like she would walk around and I think get to everybody at some point, and she would kind of go and give them adjustments, kind of push down on your shoulders that way, and then do this wonderful thing with like lifting your head up and kind of like
setting it down in a good alignment, and then sometimes like doing stuff like that, and you're like,
and push on your third eye.
it's like you're like that
Yeah,
kind of stuff.
that felt so good.
Yeah,
That kind of got me hooked. Some of the teachers started doing that. I'm like, this is like a massage a
Yeah.
little bit.
it really did. It was like being in a spa of some type. It's nice.
Love that.
Hey, we haven't lost people. We went
No, I
on
was
this
gonna say,
yoga.
we're probably boring. I don't know if we're boring everybody, but
Yeah, I guess it's good to respect that we have people's attention and stuff. But I mean, it's not like we're just being completely.
I'm a little stoned to the bone, but it feels good.
Yeah, and what are we doing any other than kind of just go down whatever tangent we feel like?
Yeah,
anyway,
stream of consciousness.
but
baby.
maybe you guys didn't come here to hear us just babble about yoga.
Well, why not? Some Thug Nasty, like he appreciated it home. So
Yeah,
we need okay, next Monday when you come over, we have to practice a song.
yeah, and I thought about that as like, I maybe I should maybe go like I will try to like put something together, like maybe even try to write a song by next week, and then we can work on it.
We could even try it. Remember how we did? Was it Silent Night when we did that at Tony's house?
Oh, maybe.
Do you know
I
how to play that on
remember
guitar?
doing stuff. Probably it's probably something that you can just that are simple enough chords that I can just pick it up.
Yeah, because you were playing guitar that night, weren't you? Or
Yeah, I did kind of pick up one of Tony's
was it
guitars at one
Silent
point.
Night that we did?
I do not remember. I wasn't exactly sober, but the only thing I
Mhm.
really remember was playing Creep by Radiohead, and I think I might have done my like cover of All Along the Watchtower.
Well, we could even just try to like do a song right now if we wanted. I don't know.
I don't know. I would kind of like to prepare for that ahead of time,
Okay.
but
But yeah, but you know all the harmonies for all the Christmas songs, right?
and if I don't, I can figure it out.
we gotta
Not
do it.
always just straight off the cuff, but I'm at least I can find my way around music enough that if I have the
Well-
time and the resources in front of me, I can figure most things out.
You sang so much harmony probably when you were in your choir.
Yeah, I
growing
did a
up.
lot of choir stuff, and I always enjoyed like listening to music and like I'd listen to one verse and then I would sing along with like the lead part and sing along with one of the harmonies and stuff. Like listening to like CCR and Crosby, Stills and Nash and picking out those harmonies. One time I did The Sound of Silence. Like when I first got my first like my laptop that was like a MacBook that had GarageBand on it, and I'd never played with multi-track recording before. I just immediately one of the first things I did was record myself singing one of the vocal parts for The Sound of Silence, and then I did another track on top of that, harmonizing with myself. I was like, "That's cool."
Yeah, that is cool. Good job.
I was both Simon and Garfunkel.
Did you listen? So did you like hate yourself then because they hated each other in the end? That song I sent you that was Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Yeah,
Did you? I love their harmony on it. He does it a little different than Simon Garfunkel.
I think he caught me in a mood where just the fact that it was from something
I
called
know.
Lucifer was
I
like,
know.
I'm not clicking.
So
on
here's
that.
the thing. All
Because I'm
this
so
stuff.
pissed off
Well,
at all this devil
I know,
shit.
and you know what's so funny though? So I watched the whole show because I was entertained by it because the character Lucifer reminds me of someone I know in real life. But the whole show in the end is about family and like love and like they all end up together in the end, kind of
Yeah.
like. So that's what's like. I said that I made a post the other day. I was like, man, you know, with all the Satan stuff going on, like
Right.
the actual show is where it is actually about Satan, but like.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing though, and I don't want you to take this the wrong
Are you
way
saying
because
that's how they
well,
trick people?
yeah, I think and I'm not and I don't know for that specific example, which is what I want to avoid doing because I don't feel comfortable weighing in on something that I don't have any idea what the fuck I'm talking about. But that's exactly the kind of thing you would expect is that you get people to identify the satanic things with
Right.
stuff that's actually good. And that is kind of because nobody's evil for the sake of evil. C.S. Lewis did some pretty good writing on that. Like
The Screwtape one.
well, even in his book Mere Christianity and stuff like that, he touches a little bit on how. But the Screwtape Letters is a good one for that too. He really kind of does a pretty good job of giving you an image of like what spiritual warfare kind of looks like. As much as it may not be perfectly accurate, like somebody on Twitter I know actually has brought that up that in the Screwtape Letters, it suggests that this demon can actually hear the thoughts of like the person he's trying to oppress, but I'm not sure that that's supposed to be that's actually said to be possible. But in any case, but yeah,
Who
but that
knows?
but that's the idea. And the same thing was with that Lil Nas thing, and I would recommend Jonathan Pajot's video that he did on this Lil Nas video.
That's where he's like with the devil. or
Like
something.
Montero, I think is what it's called. And yeah, it's like unambiguously like satanic. It's like the story. It's like the gospel from the perspective of a Luciferian, basically, and and that's exactly it. And then you have like this kind of narrative that he was talking about. Apparently, this was something people got into it on social media, but I didn't see any of that. But Jonathan Pajot is kind of talking about it's like, yeah, so you're gonna have the reactionaries who are like your like right wing kind of Christian types who are like, wow, this is just degeneracy and look at that's terrible. And look, this guy is like this is Satanism. Like what?
what? Like having a big problem with this, and then of course me like, ha ha, we got you. We knew you would react to this like this, but you're just religious nut jobs that don't understand like that this is all symbolic, and this is and the moral of the story is self-love,
Right.
which is like, yeah, that's kind of how the deception is actually said to work. You're
In
supposed to be thinking is like, yeah, we can move away from some of the kind of more grotesque imagery, and we can understand that where this all leads is love and peace and stuff. Which, like, another example of that perhaps is even in some of these like things with very very creepy looking deities in Hinduism and Tibetan
in the show
Buddhism, where
Lucifer.
you've got like Kali is like she's got human arms as a skirt and like
Yeah,
human
that
skulls and
shit's
stuff.
so
And she's
crazy.
like, it's like, yeah, but of course somebody would tell you some kind of narrative about that. Yeah, but you know, if this is just an archetypal kind of reality of like, you know, just the natural forces of the world and destruction and stuff. It's like, but yeah, but still don't know what the implications are of sacrificing babies to an owl statue. You know,
Yeah.
it's like,
In the show, one thing Lucifer does do that this could be very real too is he people sell their soul to him to be famous.
right.
So it's like very along those lines, and they like talk about that and stuff, and it's like, well, that's believable.
Yeah. And then if it ends on a pleasant note, that is kind of sus, isn't it?
Well,
But at the same time, like I guess it's not a guarantee where you'll go with
he
that.
ends up
but
in hell and stuff, but like it's just not like
yeah.
fire and brimstone hell, you know. It's a little different. And it's the wife ends up with them too, or the lady does too. Not to no spoilers, sorry.
Well, and there you would go though, is that like, yeah, and you see, hell's not that bad. You know, you can kind of love
I
your
don't think
family and you can worship your flesh, and then you can end up going to hell and it'll actually be fine. Like, and I used to think in those terms when I would see stuff that is, I would still say is kind of cringe, if I wouldn't use stronger words than that. Where, you know, someone will show a picture of a Christian that will have like a big sign that they'll be carrying, like talking about like drug users, fornicators, scoffers, laughers, just laundry list of labels, and is like, and you're all going to hell. And I remember seeing that, and the only thing I could think is like, man, all of those people, like stoners, jokers, you know, people who like to have sex, like, well, if that's
Yeah, it's
where all these
everything.
people are going, I want to go there too, where all
Right.
the fun people are. But it's like, but if you actually believe that there's any truth to that at all, it ain't gonna be like that.
Well, anyways, that song is very beautiful. The way they sing it is very beautiful. And actually, there's other songs that he does in it. It's just I really like the harmony. Did you listen to it or no?
No,
So late, like, do you mind if I just?
it's
play
an
it?
arrangement of Bridge Over Troubled Water.
And his harmony part. I
Johnny
really like.
Cash covered that song too.
That was that album was the very first secular album I ever heard.
The Johnny Cash.
No, Bridge Over Troubled
Oh.
Water, because
Oh, your parents raised you with nothing but Christian music?
yeah, pretty much. That's because that's all they knew. And then, but my mom, they had some records downstairs, and I had a friend at camp had shown me the Boxer, and I was like, oh my god, that song is amazing. And then I
Oh yeah, I was like this.
and I figured out I had the album at home, and then I listened to it, and I was like, holy cow, that's beautiful.
Which is funny, in the movie Almost Famous, I think that that record is actually one of the records that the Zoe Deschanel character, who's in Almost Famous,
Yeah.
the kid's like older sister. I think that was the album that she had hidden in her coat because she was trying to smuggle that into her mom, who had a similar like strict kind of we're not allowing rock and roll in this house.
Nothing except for about. I just want to hear when he comes in. Callie is badass. The divine feminine, yes. Callie will just kill people back and because she kills people, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not really that well versed in it, but I know that back when I was very involved in yoga, I would have probably made fun of anyone that wanted to say anything objectively negative of her just because she looks pretty creepy. The truth about it should be like actually pleasant or something.
Right. We should try this harmony.
Sure. At least as an exercise to start getting more comfortable, and we can continue building on more projects and stuff. Because why the heck not?
Yeah, we both like. We just gotta do it.
We got to do the parody music stuff for sure.
Yes, we still gotta do COVID 1984.
We want to do a music video that I think makes fun of this one video that we haven't seen in a while, but is this douchebag that is like strumming a guitar and talking about like, hey, you wear your fucking mask, wear your fucking mask, you fucking fascist.
Oh yeah, I remember that
And
one.
just like want to kind of do something on that.
She does kill.
She kills men specifically and has their heads on a necklace. But the men she kills are usually depicted as being aroused and in ecstasy.
Oh, so she takes them out while they're like about to come.
Yeah, that would be kind of like what you'd expect from the Jezebel kind of character in the Book of Revelation too, where because I think when I read that, like the image in my head was actually a really sexy looking woman that's just kind of like covered in like blood and like
Right. Not quite.
and
that.
she's like drunk on wine and stuff like that. Just like, yeah, I seduce men and they enjoy themselves and then they come to hell.
What's up, official dirty? If you're still here, sorry. Yeah, I went to look at pictures of her. How's that? Is that thing all right?
Yeah. They replaced the one that they sold me that didn't work, so this one works.
Why so many legs too?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I saw one that was when I was looking up Tibetan deities somewhat recently. I found one that was kind of like Kali, but was definitely more erotic looking. That had like really nice boobs and everything. but she had like blood dripping from the corners of her mouth and all this
Nice.
stuff. So, I mean, and I kind of get it because I've always kind of liked edgy kind of stuff, and I love metal and all that, So it's like I understand why somebody sees something grotesque like this and is like, "Fuck yeah!"
Right. Kind of into it.
And I don't. Yeah, I'm too ignorant to want to have a strong. And I'm not trying to be a party pooper and tell anyone that enjoys that stuff that is like, that is bad. You need to stop enjoying that. It's just not my personality.
I know you're not like that. I know you're not like that.
But it's starting to mess. But I've started to think about that. So I think that's kind of how stuff works with me. I process things, and when I've got stuff I'm wrestling with, it's just sometimes a little bit hard. I have a hard time deciding how I feel about stuff.
I get it. I've had a fucking shitty 20 months just things in our mind. You've had to go over it all in your mind over and over again too. And it's like
yeah. And sometimes it's just because I'm stoned and it's got me in a little bit of almost a more heightened paranoia sort of level where, just sometimes it just opens up my mind to like more pathways and I don't always have to think in terms of words. I'm thinking in like more abstract kind of ways.
right.
And occasionally some kind of really disturbing thought starts like I start playing with that in my head and then I'm like horrified in the state of being stoned all of a sudden.
Is it spiritual warfare usually?
Well, I don't know if that's spiritual warfare
Or what you're scared of? Or like what the Satan's
yeah, it's because it's like the feeling it's like a little bit of a dread. And I think if I had to kind of try to describe it kind of concisely, it's sort of like when I'm starting to look at something that I always looked at as if it was just purely innocuous, or something that my previous self would have looked at like it was innocuous and harmless or good and awesome. And now I'm like looking at things like, could there be something wrong with this? And if so, how wrong is it and why? And there's so that some of it is a frustration about like I don't have all of the answers and I want to, and others of it is like, yeah, that probably is bad, but I don't want to believe it is. And that would be like I think some of what people say spiritual warfare is about, is when you have an internal thing between like this sort of idea between like I know that I've committed myself to Christ, it's not about my will anymore, it's about God's will, but then it's like that thing I really want to do, and am I justifying doing that like because I honestly think that that's actually okay, or am I justifying doing that because I'm trying to get away with it, and that's kind of the
It's a
subtle.
lot.
And then, but I think that where the actual like oppression comes in
You good on
from
water?
like nefarious spirits, if anything. I think where
Keep
where that
talking-
really
keep talking
comes
in loud.
where that really goes into play would be when you start doubting your own salvation. You start wondering, is like, okay, well, shit, I want shit I shouldn't want, so I'm just bad. And, like, I think that because that's what they would say that the enemy wants, is for you to just give up. No. Oh, you know where my water is, and you're bringing me water.
I got it.
Thank you.
So, well, you were saying something about I'm making a coffee too. Sorry to grab that. Did you want a coffee or anything?
Sure.
Are you good to keep going?
Yeah, or did you want to? I mean, we got 5 people here. Do you want to take a break, or do you want to? Is the coffee thing?
It's just the K-cup, so it's quick.
Yeah, I guess I can try to fill space in the
Yeah,
meantime.
I can kind of
but-
hear you. It's just 2 seconds.
It is kind of difficult to, off the cuff, just. But I'll try. I'll hang out with you guys. Maybe I will address some of the replies.
You like it black?
Yeah. She's
Okay,
getting
it's
coffee.
Not, like, don't coffee snob on me, okay?
I can't.
You know
Well,
the
I'm
drill.
such
You
a
know the drill.
I'm such a coffee snob that I've learned my lesson, and I don't.
You know when like
I have at home. I do it exactly the way I like it. My standards are non-existent outside of that context.
because you know it won't be exactly how
Yeah,
you like it.
Exactly. There's no hope in it being up to my standard anywhere aside from where I have my provisions. So I'm really laid back. Coffee is coffee unless it's perfect coffee. Then it's perfect coffee. Yeah, that's awesome. I want to do DJ stuff. I was thinking about getting onto like a Twitch stream and try to see if I can challenge myself to just kind of keep a constant flow going. I'm not a DJ, but I do some Ableton stuff, and I've been kind of playing with some of the controllers and stuff like that. And shit could be really fun. But yeah, it's probably something that you gotta get. It just takes practice, whether you're trying to be like an MC, trying to keep a crowd engaged, or yeah, you have to figure out how to keep that space filled without just babbling about keeping space filled. The official Dirty said that they just turned in, getting ready to go to work, wanted to see what the convo was while I had time. Probably that person is gone now. But dude, music is cool and fun and easy once you learn to work the hardware or software. That's true.
Yeah.
That's
Once
true.
You're more music.
But for me, it's more about overcoming my own laziness and distractions. But man,
especially fucking Twitter.
Yeah, I love music. Well, I think that's actually the funny thing is I think that is the solution to my Twitter addiction problem, is that I have to force myself to get so into the music that I'm into it, and Twitter couldn't even pull me away from it. I have to be more addicted to the music than I am to the Twitter.
Yeah. But Twitter it's just a different satisfaction that you probably do have to like. It's either one or the other.
Yeah, it's not good for the attention span either. It's like very
attention
those
span?
short little impulse,
I'm already
tiny little dopamine hits that you get when you're like, oh, who liked what? Oh yeah, I did say that. That was funny. I feel good now.
people like me.
Yeah, people like me and they approve of the way that I think. So it sucks to feel like you need that, but it's understandable.
Someone just said something happened in Aurora.
Something happened in Aurora.
Maybe, let me see. Might be a
I
short-
heard somebody told me that the Aurora movie theater is the safest place in the world to go see a movie.
I bet it. Do they have a?
Yeah, because I think they've always got armed
Oh yeah.
security there and stuff like that.
Just in 5 people aged 14 to 17 have been taken to the hospital after a shooting in Aurora.
Fuck.
But it doesn't say deaths yet.
Stop shooting people.
Yeah, save your ammo for when we really need to when we really need it for when real bad guys come, you know? What? Stop being so mad. Yes, and of course, right, where Rittenhouse's trial was good. Anyway, well, I could go down a rabbit hole with that shit too. Like, oh, someone asked you a free will question.
Yeah, that's actually kind of the point, is that we have free will and it is our choice. You don't, it's not that you absolutely need to. The growth is that you come to the place where that is your will. Your will is, you want your will to be God's will, because you realize that when you're following your own will, then you are leading yourself down a destructive path, which I can't speculate that to everybody else, but that kind of has been my experience.
That's Mike Pickles, by the way.
I'm-
Who said he disagrees with you last
Yeah,
week
yeah,
on
no,
Zoom.
I felt really stupid for even saying that I didn't know who that was by the time
That
that I
was a
actually got
different
back
one.
on Twitter.
I don't think that
Oh, it
was
wasn't.
actually him last time.
Yeah, but yeah, somebody had said something, and I was like, I'm not sure the name rings a bell, but I knew that. Yeah, Mike Nichols definitely rang a bell. We talk a lot about this stuff, and it's been good.
Religious talks I used to love talking about it, but
Yeah,
I think I got burned out, and now I'm just like, I love hearing you talk about it as where you're just like, no, this is how I am, this is what I believe. Like
Yeah.
my friend Allie's the same way, and I love.
and I enjoyed. It's a practice too, because I don't have a whole lot of opportunities to talk to people who aren't in it
right, because
and unwilling to, and so it's kind of, because it's a little tricky, right? Because it's kind of like, on one hand you talk about it very matter of factly, like to people who also believe what you believe, so it's different, but then it's a little bit of a challenge to talk about it in a way that doesn't sound wrong, well, to talk about things matter of factly that you also know the person you're talking to does not take that as a matter of fact.
Well,
So-
yeah, and you have to. You think. Well, I did get saved before, but I don't believe it anymore. But that's what I have to remember. When my parents talk to me, they think I very well literally could be going to hell, and that's
that would be yeah, that would
it's
be
kind of
weird.
hard, and that's I try to understand if they really truly believe that, they believe that, and that's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard to take. It's hard to think about.
And that's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about. And it's also nobody wants to. I don't want to talk to somebody as if I believe that. So, but then what? Then I mean, so that would. What's my other options? To not believe what the Bible says? I don't know.
Right, because if you believe, that's my.
So
whole,
I try
if you
not to
believe,
think
you
about
believe.
it too much.
Yeah, Mike says it's good to have. Yeah, I love these conversations. It's just I truly believe you believe it. I believe I believe people believe in their religions or their gods or whatever. Even the people who believe in the fucking state, I believe they believe in it, and it's God to them, and
Right. And say whatever you want about Christians, but at least my God isn't the fucking state.
Exactly. At least he's not the fucking state.
And that's the thing too, is that when libertarians want to challenge me on matters of metaphysics and spirituality and epistemology and stuff like that, that's one thing. I can, it's a lot more pleasant to talk to people who believe in individualism about these kinds of things, and even if they want to be kind of harsh about you don't you need to have some kind of somebody in charge of you or something like that, even if they want to be snide, it's still easier to talk to those people than the statists that are trying to make fun of you for believing in some kind of quote unquote sky daddy, I think is one of the things I've heard. It's oh, you're just a religious nut job. That's why you think that the minimum wage doesn't work the way that it does, because you're a stupid Christian. You believe in fairy tales. No, I didn't even bring up
my faith. I was just talking about logic and economics, but that's cool. But yeah, when they want to play that card, but they're out of the idea that they are more sophisticated because they literally make an idol to worship out of the government.
Yeah.
Okay, bro.
It was at a park. The shooting was at a park, so it could have been like just kids being thugs. Remember, I swear to God, I saw a gun. Remember when we went to the concert and then we walked back to your car, and I was like, those little kids. There was like a little group of kids over, not kids, but like preteens, and he either had a gun or a fake gun on him, and because he pulled it out exactly so I could see, just being a little thug shit. That's probably what happened here, like in Aurora, if it was just at a park and a bunch of kids got hurt. It doesn't say they got killed, so we'll see. We'll see what this is going to know, what legislation this will lead to.
Yeah,
Anytime anything happens, what legislation will this lead to?
I guess, yeah, one thing that, I mean, where we're at right now there's certain, not everything works exactly the same way under all circumstances, but I mean, one thing is that, like, depending on the race of, like, that would affect whether or not it even gets attention or what the narrative is going to be. And yeah, you can practically guarantee that if it was a white person and the victim was a black person, that this is definitely going to be this is going to get coverage. And if it's the other way around, there's maybe more of a chance that it just won't get covered, which I hate to even have to say that, because that's, you know,
we're
I
not
don't even
supposed
want-
to know
yeah.
all this too. Really, we're not supposed to know all this stuff that goes on, but we
it's
do.
not normal to feel like you need to know about every little bit of that. Well, nobody knows, and that's part of why the propaganda things is so detestable, is that, like, they really do just selectively, out of millions and millions of things and interactions that are happening all the time, they showcase the things that they can find that will be useful in their brainwashing efforts.
Yep.
And then those are the things that we think of as what's happening in the world.
They control it all. And then people, like, that's one thing I don't understand this year. I mean, you can look up article after article after article about how, if it bleeds, it leads, and the psychology of fear and what fear does. And then you're like, how do people not see how this is? I think I've told you this. I think people are just so used to being abused, especially because of social media making it so easy to bully and troll and stuff. People are just so used to being abused that this is no different to them. You know what I mean? Like, because I don't get how you can't see some of these articles and be like, they're leading me to believe something fucking stupid. They're leading me.
Yeah, well, and I think where I was trying to go with that, though, too, was that they would make an anti-gun sort of campaign out of it if they could, but they might be less likely to use it if it doesn't also fit in with their racial narratives and stuff like that. I don't know.
And they're the most.
I wanted to. What was Doug Nasty saying? I hate that argument. Like, even if it was true, why would the solution be to try to make things worse for white people? You'd think it would be to make it easier for everyone. I'm not sure if
Yeah, what were we talking about?
I'm not sure what argument he's referring to. Or who says the solution would be to make things worse. I don't think anyone actually wants to make things worse for white people.
The media is the most. Chime back in, Doug, what you meant. The media is literally the least diverse industry, and they're calling everyone else racist all the time. Like, I don't know if you were on Twitter when some after that Gabby Torpedo case or whenever they were searching for that girl, then they were like, women of color don't get talked about as much when they go missing. It's like, that's your fucking job. You're the media. Why are you saying this? Like,
yeah, that's weird.
It was
And
so weird.
that's one of those things that most people are gonna miss.
It was
But
so
it's like,
weird.
Why is this not getting any coverage? Well, why don't you talk to the people who give you your teleprompter scripts? Why they aren't
One
giving
of
you
them,
these stories to cover them?
Cuomo
enough? And is
one?
that even? But then I can't even assume that there's even any truth to that whatsoever.
oh, right.
I'm not gonna bother to try to do some detective work to see how many
these incidents happen versus how many of them get reported, and then break them down by the ethnicity of the abducted
Right.
child. Like, I feel like they're just trying to trick us into arguing about this stuff, knowing that we don't have the knowledge about it, and then just get us to kind of fight and bicker.
Oh, I see what he means when
When-
people make that comparison.
Yeah, no, that's not the point that I was trying to make. I was talking more about like what's more likely to get attention from the media or ignored by the media. So I'm saying that it's like if there was like a white shooter and black victims, they'd be able to use that in the media to talk about how white supremacy is still alive and well in the country, and then also try to attach guns to white supremacy because they're trying to grab guns and stuff like that. But I think there's maybe some chance that if you flipped that around, that it just wouldn't get the media attention to the same degree, because they wouldn't want there to be any kind of counter narrative on the racial thing. I don't know. I'm not too confident on that or something like that. But it is hard for me to imagine them trying to blow up, even though they do really want to grab guns. It would be hard for me to imagine them trying to use specifically as an example something with a black shooter and a white, victim.
Yeah, I think because he might mean too is like people were like, well, if Kyle like some news people said, well, if Kyle Rittenhouse had been a black man defending himself, would you all have supported him still? And like
It's
everyone's like,
yes.
yeah, we're like that. But then it's funny how they bring that up. Like, why would you bring that up? And you're
Well,
the
it's-
one who wants people unarmed, not us.
I mean, that can't be more complicated than their audience. They know their audience because they made their audience how they are.
Right.
and their audience just assumes that everybody that supports gun rights and self-defense, like, I don't know, it's just so attached to that idea that they're all racist white people. Nobody else cares about the right to bear arms
Right.
and
No one wants to defend
and
themselves.
and they're assuming that everyone who defends the Second Amendment is disingenuous and hypocritical when they say that this is a right for everybody, because you just watch, if this were switched around, then you would just because he's black, you would be saying that he knew what he was doing and he didn't and he wasn't defending himself. Same exact sort. It's like, yeah, bullshit. Nope.
Yeah.
But the people in the media don't believe that either, but they know that some of their audience are stupid enough to believe that. Be like, yeah.
And they're pushing if you want to defend yourself, you're a dumb right-wing, alt-right, white supremacist Trumper. Like, I really feel they're pushing that to make it, because like, if you wanted to work your job and make money to feed your kids during COVID, you were remember when like the whole, oh, you just want a haircut, oh wow, like they're trying to make people look so stupid and like they're below them. Like, it's just this stupid condemnation, whatever.
Yeah.
And like, they're doing that now with
condescending.
condescending. It's like they're doing it now with self-defense, and they
Condescension.
want you to like, oh, you want to defend yourself? Oh, you must be like a Trumper. Like, I can't stand that, because self-defense is like one of the biggest things and that's what brings me back to the abuse thing. Like, maybe people, obviously they want people not to fight back overall, so they're going to play these games. Mike just mentioned that name, Edward Bernays, and I was looking him up, and it looks like he was a propagandist. I've been learning all these new names lately. I love just like looking it up.
Edward Bernays. That name does ring a bell. Did he write a book?
He wrote
Did he write the book Propaganda?
campaign in a 1929 effort to promote female smoking. So like he made smoking look good and stuff. And then he was of course connected with the CIA overthrow of Guatemala. All these random people ended up
Interesting.
in CIA. Have you ever seen?
I wonder if he was around the time of the Jamestown thing, Jonestown.
He would have been. That was in the 20s, and Jonestown was like 70s, right?
Yes and no.
So I don't know.
No, Jonestown thing. I think to really get into that one, that could be interesting, but I'd have to kind of brush up on the facts about it.
I read a couple good books, but I read this
I
one.
watched a pretty good Joe Rogan episode discussing that. That was
Was
really
someone on,
interesting.
yeah?
Yeah.
Was it a woman or a man?
I think it was a man who had spent some time
There.
where that occurred and stuff like that. They talked a little bit about cassava, which is funny because I had a little bit of a personal. Uh, it was a weird coincidence that
What?
I was experimenting with trying to make like some kind of food something with a bag of cassava flour that I had, and I was like mixing it with water. I wasn't looking up recipes. I was just trying to experiment, and I was like eating some of the raw dough that I had made. And then I'm listening to this Joe Rogan Experience episode where the guy's talking about how cassava has is a natural source of cyanide, and how if you eat raw cassava, then if you then you can die because
Cyanide?
it's cyanide and stuff like that. So I go and I start purging myself because I'm like, holy shit, I'm poisoning myself right now. But then I like decided, "Why I'm freaking out. Why am I freaking out?" So I looked it up real quick and I was like, oh no. On this brand's website, they say that they pasteurize this stuff first, so it's not even raw. But no, apparently cassava grows on on that island. I think it is in abundance, and it's a big piece of their food source. So some people have speculated that that's how they got the cyanide that they put in the Kool-Aid, but it's not that clear that they were even using cyanide that wasn't given to them by like the CIA or something like that. And it's not even clear that everybody drank the Kool-Aid.
Right. Well, no.
It seems like some of them were actually forcefully injected with cyanide if they refused the Kool-Aid, and there were a bunch of men pointing guns at them.
Yeah.
And they didn't all voluntarily choose to kill themselves.
Yeah, that one gets really fucked up. I was just how Thug Nasty said, like nothing's about individuality or like that's what makes me. Sorry, it's gonna take me a while to get this thought out. I'm stoned, everybody.
Yeah.
But like we all have to face the like shadow in us, or like that you do bad things, you have done bad things, or you hurt people.
Everyone has to reconcile that one way or another.
Yeah, you have to look on yourself and say, I have this bad thing and this is how I'm going to be better. I'll notice it more. But instead, like society, what they do is they're like, instead of feeling a bad thing, they're like, no, everyone's just a white supremacist, or everyone, like they're just applying this like to everybody.
Yeah, and here's how, and here's some like opium for your mind. It sets your mind at ease, and here's how you're not actually bad, that other people are the actual bad people or something. And
it's everybody else. It's never you. You never like it does get weird when you've been like forced to take responsibility for shit in your life that you've done, and then like now we're at this time where it's like, now this guy's fucking, a kid shot his arm off because he was going after him, and he's on TV going, "Oh, woe is me!" Like, it's so.
He vaporized my bicep. He said that on the thing. He was like, and what is depicted in this picture? It's like, yeah, that's him vaporizing my bicep.
Yeah, the guy's weird. Like, I feel like he's too calm and collected, and like, not to judge that because I try not to judge that, but like,
he kind of looked like a junkie to me from looking at least one picture of him with his eyes look really dark.
What was his felony? Do you know what his felony was?
I don't recall. Yeah, it was hard for me to. In fact, I learned. I kind of one time when I was, I don't know why, it's because I was being impatient and I didn't want to find a better source, and I actually clicked on like a Reuters or no, it was a Snopes article when I was trying to get the facts straight about like what the three people that he shot, what their criminal history really was, and I found this Snopes article, and immediately it became interesting to me in a different way than what I intended, because it wasn't an easy source for me to figure out what their criminal history really was, because it was like titled like the what's true and what's false about Kyle's, probably even said the word victims and stuff like that. And I had to read through or skim through 32 paragraphs of them talking about about and stuff about Kyle and the background of that, and also to address what is said to be happening, where people are trying to use their criminal history as an argument, and why that's not a valid argument, and why that information wouldn't be admissible in court anyway, and why we shouldn't even be talking about their criminal history. So you had to get through 32 articles of that kind of fluff before they actually get to talking about Rosenbaum, and so it does happen to be the case. It was something like that. Like, it does happen to be the case that that there were 5 child victims of sexual assault at
Of
the hands
fucking
of
anal
Rosenbaum.
rape.
And it's like, okay, yeah. So you made a real big deal about everything but that, until the point where anyone actually trying to read this would obviously get bored and not even keep reading.
I only found he got a
And then we
lurking.
find out that at 33 paragraphs in.
It's but we've this last year we've deified criminals too. I mean, there's a George Floyd statue, like
Yeah,
I think I do think that I don't know if he died or not from being, but that was wrong that happened. And
right.
and fuck
And
the police.
nobody thought that it looked like nobody who could watch that video thought it was appropriate, whatever the circumstances could have possibly been.
It was a human abusing another
You've
human.
got this guy. This guy does not need to be on the sidewalk with somebody's knee on him for any reason that you can even imagine.
But like then it came out, and that of course people can't say this because I forget who calls it. I think Michael Malice has called it some Saint Floyd. But like,
oh yeah, they're actually trying to make like a saint out of him. Even though it's like, I don't want to demonize the guy by any means. I don't think that he was like a monster, but he wasn't a saint either.
well, he held a pregnant woman at gunpoint at one point.
Oh,
And
well,
I was
that's
like,
pretty bad.
in my world where everyone's armed, it would have stopped then if she had been armed.
Right.
In my fantasy world. And that's why I'm like, now look at how at some point this guy was going to have to be stopped. Oh, and they had just let him out from the mental facility. Did you know that? Of Rosenbaum?
Oh no.
He had literally been let out that day or the day before. And like, that made me, then I got all conspiracy theory, and I'm like, is that what they were doing in all these cities?
Like
Is
they
just,
they
like,
actually wanted to release people specifically because they knew these people were unstable,
Yeah.
and they would be able to be useful idiots, so to speak, for the. Yeah, there's something to that. Speaking of conspiracy theories and that kind of psyop type thing, I had a really strange interaction with a passenger that well, it started off with him and his friend were real drunk, and they were just in the back seat kind of talking about the bar that I took them from, and I think they had gotten into it with some people at the bar because the guy was kind of just intentionally being weird. But I guess he like starts playing the X-Files theme song on his phone in the bar, and people were like giving him attention for that, which he was saying he was apparently not wanting attention, and they should leave him alone and not judge him for playing the X-Files theme. It was like, I was entertained by whatever this was about and not really struggling to get the facts straight, and they kept interrupting me anyway, but it was still funny. And then I dropped his one friend off and then had a few ways longer to take this guy. And he was like, can we like play the X-Files theme song? And I was like, fuck yeah. So I went into Spotify and I put on the X-Files theme song on my over Bluetooth in the car speakers. Like, yeah, we could do that. And but then it's like, while this is going on, he managed to talk about a few other things, but up to the point where I dropped him off, he started talking about people, how, like, he said it kind of like this, like, there is a surprising number of people that are classified as being schizophrenic who used to be in high-level government situations. And he was kind of talking about it kind of like that. And then when I was kind of trying to probe further, be like, oh, you mean like this? And he wasn't really answering my questions for clarity and stuff like that. One of the last things that he said was, it is a interesting. It might not be a good idea to put your nose where it doesn't belong, but but it is perhaps an interesting topic of research. Like, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, he's like trying to be mysterious and all this stuff, but yeah, but my takeaway from that was that he was kind of trying to suggest that probably a lot, like if you look at the number of people who have been, like, I guess, involved in situations in government where you'd expect them to have a lot of insider knowledge, um, that a very strange number of them are classified as schizophrenics, and one can wonder, did something cause them to actually go crazy, or have they been basically gaslit into either thinking, believing that they themselves are crazy? Have their family members been fooled into thinking that they are crazy, and all of this kind of stuff, just so that when they talk about what they know, nobody will take them seriously? At least that's where my imagination took that. And yeah, that's very plausible, isn't it?
It's all very everything that we could fucking think of is possible.
Because I mean, if they disappear some people, there's probably way too many people that know stuff they're not supposed to know to blackmail or disappear all of them. So yeah, wouldn't surprise me. That Barry Jennings thing still has me fucked up.
Barry Jennings.
Yeah,
Should I look into it?
yeah, probably. I'll give you kind of the rundown. I think I learned about him from James Corbett, but he was in the World Trade Center Building 7 when it blew up, and uh, he was like publicly telling the story. Like, he thought, anyone who asks me about this, yes, please ask me about it. I'm happy to talk about it, and because this is really weird and I don't even understand what happened and all of this kind of stuff. But the story was kind of basically that he went into work when he hadn't originally been planning on doing that, but he goes into the office, which was at that building, and strangely, there's nobody in there. The whole building is like empty. And then while he's in there, the thing blows up on him. He ends up falling all the way down onto the lobby level and somehow surviving it, and making his way out. And parts of the details of this story involve the explosions that he heard, as well as, like, I think information that seems to conclude as evidence that there were that this took place like before any of the other buildings went down, which kind of challenges the already unbelievable narrative that, well, building 7 went down because of all the shaking and all the, there was debris might have fallen off the other 2 towers, causing that one to collapse. It's like, no, you haven't even explained how these buildings collapsed because they were hit by planes in the first place. And then you have absolutely no evidence that suggests that the other buildings caused this particular other building that is also one of the World Trade Center buildings to collapse, controlled demolition style. But the thing about Barry Jennings is that, yeah, he was nobody was supposed to be witness to this, but he happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, or the right place at the right time, depending on how you look at it.
Is he still alive, or did he?
Nobody knows. Yeah, because he was for a while. He was talking to people, and some of these people who had like channels would be excited to, some of the related to InfoWars type people would want to have him on, and he was always willing to tell his story. And then somebody had tried to do that, who I think had already met him and had a conversation with him once, wanted to contact him again to have a conversation, and nobody has any idea he just seems to have disappeared off the face of the earth. I think, if I recall correctly, there may be some strange, hard to believe cover up of that he did die of something, but if that was true, I'm pretty sure that it was pretty, like, okay, yeah, right. In any case, yeah, Barry Jennings, I think, was saying stuff that's not supposed to be said, so he had to be gotten rid of.
The evidence of the shooting again. Oh, they probably showed I think that's Kyle Rittenhouse. Anxious watching him defend himself. Yeah, I mean, that's the shit we like hope. That's why, like, I don't want to go out in the streets and sometimes, because I don't want to have to be in that situation with those people. Like, Like I want the government to come to me, and then I'll fight. I'll still go fight and do things. I'm gonna go to the protest for Johnny. Which, if anyone's watching, this Thursday, the 18th, there's a protest at Taj Mahal or the Jefferson County buildings, starting at 2:30, I believe. Just FYI. But I don't want
I don't
something
like the
bad to
idea.
happen.
Yeah, and I don't like the idea of confronting these people. And I mean, almost anytime, if anyone comes at you, like I think we've discussed this in some of our Twitter circles too, that like if you have like a group chat going or something like that, and somebody that maybe isn't that well known by everybody in there starts trying to act like they're trying to like organize something, just assume that person is a Fed,
Yeah.
and don't talk to this person anymore.
Don't talk to them anymore.
Because they're trying to get you to do something that really is stupid. It's like, come on, we can't stand for this anymore. We got, it's like whatever the hell went down with
Like
Gretchen Whitmer
yeah.
is like, there might have actually been some unknowing people involved in that, but it was probably mostly federal agents.
I think it was. I think they've
if
come
not
out.
all of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think there was actually like that's conclusive. That's just one of those things that there's no denying that, but they just won't talk about it. So
And
it
a bunch of
doesn't
the
matter.
January. Do you know who Ray Epps is on January 6th? Like the night before, he's like, "We're gonna go storm the Capitol," blah, and then they find out this like he's an FBI agent and he was inciting people, and they've like confronted him, but then and they confronted him, and then like a week later, the people who confronted him at his house, the FBI raided their houses. So the FBI is just used to be retaliation or whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, this slimy thing with that like drone footage video that I think you're supposed to produce all of the evidence up front before the case starts. It's kind of how this generally works. But then,
Typically.
but they had the evidence and knew they had this evidence that they intended to use the whole time, and they decided to wait until like toward the end to spring it. It's like, I mean, it's obvious what you are trying to do. Well, maybe it's not that obvious exactly what they're trying to do, but it's obvious that they are not acting in good faith and that this is a tactic. That's clear. And I think it's interesting. Maybe it's a good thing. Maybe this is a white pill for me that I hear some people talking about like, yeah, I thought that the FBI were like, an organization with like integrity and stuff, and they did like good stuff. And seems like a pretty blue pill take, but at least those people are getting red pilled now, so that's a white pill for me. If anyone ever, I have no idea why anyone thought that the FBI should be trusted, but at least if you don't trust them now, then that's a win. So
I have a meme to show you.
because I guess people focus on like the NSA and the CIA and all that stuff, so maybe compared to those two groups, the FBI should seem a little better, but no, I mean, it's the same cathedral. It's the same federal government. With this constitution, we will limit what the federal government of the future can do. The federal government in the future.
It's like
all of the bullshit that it's done. Well, I think it's like Benjamin Franklin when someone asked him, "What did you guys do in there?" And you're like, first constitutional committee or whatever they called it. I don't care about that statist history stuff enough to remember the details perfectly, but they like met in a room and spent some time hashing this stuff out, and then when they were like done, it's like, "What'd you do? What did you guys make?" And he says like, "It's a republic if you can keep it."
God.
Why did we probably should have heard that loud part, that last part a little bit louder. It's like, yeah, why would anyone think you could keep it? Like whatever this idealist idea that this piece of paper, or even the fact that what Judge Napolitano will like bring up about John Adams, the second president, like that this guy basically comments on his on him being overweight, and he's like this kind of figure that will walk around wearing kind of fancy clothes and like purple colors and stuff like that, acting like he's a king all of a sudden. And somebody while he's walking through, somebody comments on his weight, and he has that person arrested and thrown in jail. Is like, Okay, that First Amendment thing is going pretty well so far.
Yeah.
Second president in that happened, and that they just thought, okay, well, we're still kind of getting our footing on this whole idea, and they weren't instead like, oh, maybe we should go back to the drawing board now
Right.
and consider that this might have been a bad idea, because if it does, if the central power people are able to just that easily get around these rules that we made to try to restrict them, and they're already doing this, maybe that's going to keep happening, and it's going to go really bad, because not only will people believe they have rights and that they have a guaranteed freedom, but they will have that notion while they're being stomped on.
Right.
Oh, like
The
like
whole while they're getting loaded on boxcars, they're like defending it.
I have rights. Yeah, right. Yeah, you don't. I know my rights. You can't search my car. Well, if I do search your car and I find some weed, then that'll show that I had a reason to search your car. So
You want to search your car? Do you want to keep going? You want to take a break? Or
guess we just have one person right now. It couldn't be a terrible time for a break. Not that that one person doesn't matter a lot.
yes,
You're our favorite person.
we'll try to be back later. I'll take a break. I'm answering the pain.